time is speeding up, chaos is shifting into a new level, and we feel the pull to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Timeless spiritual wisdom offers the point of stability to navigate these times and to open our greatest potential. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the fun and knowledge of visionary best-selling authors Shri and Kira as they explore these mysteries and invite your higher love to come forward. And now, here are Shri and Kira.
Welcome.
Namaste.
I am wisdom teacher Shri Ramka.
And I am Kira Ra, and we've got a question for you. Hey, can happiness be legislated, and why are we even talking about that? How did we get here?
Well, today is International Happiness Day.
Now,
for those of
dig
you
that.
that forgot to smile.
Yeah, well, or for those of you that might have forgotten, this is actually like the UN declared this to be the International Day of Happiness, and you know, we were gazing, and Shri and I were digging and really paying attention to the energies of this time. You know, we're in the middle of a very powerful Mercury retrograde. We're in the middle of an extremely powerful 4-point portal of crystalline ascension that's opening in February, March, April, May 2013. And here we are, and the government says, be happy.
Well, it's okay, but doesn't it seem a little odd that we would have a sanctioned day for happiness?
Yes.
That seems a little odd to me.
It does to me too.
Because it implies that we're just not doing it good enough the other days, you know?
Well, you know, Shri, there's actually a lot to be said for that. You know, one of the things that Shri and I, we actually wrote about this is back in December 2012. As a matter of fact, it was on December 19th, 2012, Gallup, the Gallup poll people, published a poll, a study that they had done of 150,000 people worldwide that talked about literally, are you happy? And it was literally a happiness quotient. And one of the things that we found so particularly powerful during the time that this poll came out was that of the top 10 countries, 7 of them were right here where we live, down here in Central America, Central and Northern South America, and the United States was number 33, and Singapore, which has all this amazing wealth, was dead last when it came to, are you happy with your life?
And so it is an interesting thing, because happiness is truly one of the goals of life. People, you know, isn't it in the Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness?
Oh, but it's that P word.
The pursuit.
Pursuit.
That'll hang you up every time, because
Exactly.
when we're pursuing, we're always falling a little short.
Well,
aren't
it's
we?
like being the eternal seeker. You know,
Yes.
at some point we have to stop seeking and start being. And really, it is a powerful statement. I think it's a huge statement, Shri, that we're at a moment where, you know, a lot of the things on the news lately are talking about, like it or not, the internet has become a cyber state. You know, whether you like it or not, it's spyware. You are being tracked. You are being watched.
Everything is tracked.
Everything, you know, and it's why Shri and I don't do social media, and I'm sorry, YouTube is our one concession, and part of it is because I truly in my heart feel that there are other ways that we can be with each other without having to exclusively rely on social media, which has really become a wonderful collection for Big Brother.
Well, it has, and it's also a statement of our need for connection.
Yes.
You know, it's an interesting thing when Facebook has become the universal connector.
It's the ultimate Yellow Pages.
Well, it's beyond that.
Yeah.
It's you wondering what's going on with somebody, you can go find out.
Yeah.
So without commenting on that, because it brings a lot of joy and connectivity to many people, what we're really, the focus for today is the comedy of the idea that we have to declare a day for happiness, or the absurdity that you're not happy. Because happiness is the natural state. Consider a baby that's healthy, a baby that is in decent health. They're not frowning and crying, they're giggling and laughing, unless they're cold or hungry, you know, it's one of those kind of things. But when our basic needs are met, when we have a roof over our head, where we're warm, we have a little food in our belly, what's not to be happy about?
Well, you know, I've got to jump in here, Shri, because the whole time Shri's talking, I'm going, oh, let me talk.
Okay,
and
your turn.
Thank you. And the reason being is, in the shadow, and it really feels to me like it's in the shadow, of this International Day of Happiness, is the release of the DSM-V4, or 5.
Five.
And here's some, go Google this, guys. Go look up the DSM-V5. And you might say, well, Kira, what is that? Okay, Shri, you can explain that. You were a psychotherapist. What is that?
That's the little handbook that lists all the approved psychological disorders. So if you think that you have a mental illness or some sort of dysfunction, disorder. If it's not in that book, I'm sorry, you're not approved. You're not sick.
Exactly.
But if it is in that book, you can get an insurance claim filed.
And if you are a psychiatrist or someone who is working for an insurance company, you are mandated to pick a diagnosis,
It's a diagnosis
and
code.
offer it to someone. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is, here we're talking about happiness, and in the second half of the show, we're going to chat a lot about what it really means to be happy and what true happiness is and what true happiness means. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because the scuttlebutt, or let me say the controversy over the DMSV5, and CNN had a great article about it in early March 2013, maybe you want to go find that, is that this DMSV5, of course, overturns psychiatric conditions that people have been labeled with for years. For example, transgender is no longer labeled as a psychiatric disorder. On the flip side, it creates lots of new psychiatric disorders, including if you have been in pain for 6 months and you talk about that pain every day, you now have a psychiatric disorder, thereby you are worthy to be medicated and or potentially institutionalized. So I want you to pay attention to this, because it's more than just, is the government telling us to be happy? It's what is the definition of normal, and how have we allowed that to become a pharmacological definition?
Well, it's wild to think that our authoritative society, and whether the authority is the government or the medical association or the psychiatric association, etc., there is an authority that has, through their wisdom and observation, decided what is the acceptable range for normalcy and for your normal living. And that acceptable range is defined by them, and I'm not going to argue with it, I just want you to get that in our society, if you're within that range, you pass.
Right.
If you fall outside of that range in one area, you get medicated or diagnosed or limited, or perhaps you simply begin to doubt yourself. It's an insidious
wow. Whew, Sri, the big D word. Doubt. Because when we begin to doubt ourselves, we actually disconnect. The D words start really coming together. We doubt, we disconnect, and we die. Literally. Because the doubt is what begins to disrupt, another D word, all of our incredible connections, and thereby it takes away the presence and the power of the moment. And I find it, and I'm excited to go into this in the second half of the show in much more detail, that here we are again in the middle of one of the most profound four-pointed ascension energetic openings that has ever existed. I want you guys to really take in how powerful this is. We are in a moment where wisdom and love are trying to balance, and if you've not been tracking with us, go to ShriAndKira.com and read, learn more about what we're talking about here. And in addition to that, there is this overlay of a giant pharma saying, what is a psychological disorder, what is a psychiatric disorder, and don't be happy or be happy, but do it by these rules.
Well, what's absolutely crazy is there's a new drug being approved to bring you down if you're too happy.
Now, you guys might have seen, there's actually a parody about this that's been out on the web. Go find it. But it's not too far from reality.
So for the last couple of decades, we've had our Prozac generation. We've had the antidepressants, which took off like wildfire.
Right.
Now, it's an interesting statement when a society, when large numbers of that society feel they need to medicate themselves because they're depressed, they're unhappy, as opposed to change the society or change the way they live. No, I'll take a pill so I can be happy with a status quo that was making me unhappy.
Right, but can I cope with it? Is it really,
cope.
Are you happy or are you coping?
Well, part of that's the definition, of happiness. Happiness is also very poorly defined, but it's a subjective definition.
So how can you define it?
So here's the thing that's wild, is happiness has become dependent upon our external conditions.
Yes.
And so we have groomed generation after generation to decide whether or not they like their lives based upon the content of what's on that table, of what's going on in their life. Well, gosh, the content can change like that. And to make one's happiness dependent upon external content and external things means you have made yourself a slave to someone else's influence.
Yes.
Because how many things can affect the content of your life? Everything from money to economy to politics to career, all of those things affect you. And yet when you look at the baby in the crib who doesn't have a career and not a penny in the bank, they look pretty happy.
I love that. And they look pretty connected. And that really gets us ready for part 2 of the show. In the second half of the show, we're going to talk about why our cosmic connection assists us to maintain our happiness. We're going to throw out these myths that the DMSV5 is trying to make us believe. And we're going to really dive into the essence of living a life of peace, love, and joy. So bring that hand to your heart. Take a deep breath. Oh, stay with us. We'll be right back. Namaste, beloved one. This is Kira Ra, and I am inviting you to take a journey of the soul in the land of the heart. Imagine your life free from chaos and filled with creative clarity. Imagine waking up each day in your private lakefront casita, greeted by brilliant sun, flowers, and birds. It is here that you will effortlessly resurrect your divine blueprint in pristine energy. Yes, I am inviting you to join us for a personal resurrection vacation.
Welcome back. We're glad you're with us.
We sure are.
Today we're exploring happiness and whether happiness can be legislated, because doggone it, I'm a law-abiding citizen. And if I'm supposed to be happy, I'll do my best.
That's great, Sri. I love that. You know, it really is. I don't want to say that it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it really is that we're at the point, or we're at that moment, where things that really are part of our nature are needing to be defined, described, categorized.
Or limited.
Or limited, well, much limited. We really have, you know, I was saying to Sri the other day, oh my goodness, we really have lived long enough. And that's kind of a scary thing to say, and it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. Yes, the reality is that we are all living through transitory times, and everything is shifting, and it's shifting without any context of a traditional linear timeline. Our time has completely shifted, and if you have tried to hold on to time, it's one of those things that can kind of take away your happiness. And this is why it's important to be a fluid being, a being who is open to, I like to say, you know, the 4 directions of the divine energies. I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. And these 4 powerful energies, and right now we did love in February. March is the March, and March 2013 is all about the wisdom. And there's 2 more months ahead, April and May, that are going to be fully igniting this cosmic diamond ascension portal. And whether or not you want to believe that, whether or not you want to fantasize with us about it, whether or not you want to do anything with it, the reality is this energy is here, it's opening, it's anchoring, and so everyone's affected by it.
Everyone is affected by it. And to bring us back to this notion of the diamond portal,
yes.
You know, it's essential that we stop for a moment and recognize truth. And the truth is that love is. Love is the stuff of which we are made. It is the stuff of the universe. And there isn't a faith or a spiritual practice around that does not acknowledge the power and potency and the truth of love. But even love is misunderstood in a human context, in a value system that has polarity. And love is your nature. Love is your fabric. It's a state of beingness that has great energy, great potential.
Yes.
Well, wisdom, which is the point that we're cultivating greater awareness around now in March, Wisdom is the intelligent application of love. It's the active principle. Love is a beingness. It's a state of truth, of being. Wisdom involves an action. It's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. If without wisdom, what does love do? How do you act? How do you behave?
And actually, without wisdom, that's where love can actually cause you great pain. You know, have you ever met that person that you say, they're such a loving being, they're such a beautiful person, why are they so unhappy? Why is their life always so out of balance?
Why are they taken advantage of?
Exactly. They kind of have that big sign that says, use me. And the reality is, because all love without the discerning wisdom is an actual imbalance of energy. And so it's about the balance. It's about bringing it together. And that's why I do, again, find it so amusing that the International Day of Happiness is happening in the month of wisdom, because it is of great wisdom to recognize that every being has the right to be happy. And that our world can certainly offer us many things to take us away from that happiness. You know, today, for example, I was shown a story in India, and of course it saddened my heart deeply about, you know, children as young as 3 years old being sold into indentured servitude, and that, you know, 140 of these children were finally released from a brick factory where they've been working and where they were essentially sold. And certainly that would be cause for distracting energies if you only see it at the one level. And one of the gifts that happens in India is from a very young age, and I'm not asking for you to have any judgment around it or to offer that. All I'm saying, I'm just offering you the facts. From a very young age, there's a strong belief in the karmic balancing of this lifetime, and living in that karmic rebalancing. And so from that, it's how they're able to sustain practices that for many people around the world, they have strong objections to.
So this belief in that type of karma, where my life, you know, I have limitations because of my karma, is so strong that it cultivates a sense of acceptance for what we might view as tragic conditions.
Right.
So from one context, this is my lot, this is what I deserve. From another context, you're being taken advantage of. This is a tragic misuse of humanity. So the context through which we look at things affects our happiness, and it affects our understanding. And this is why wisdom is so powerful. What is considered wisdom to a Maasai warrior in the Serengeti in Africa is different than what might be wisdom to a 21st century person in London, England.
Indeed.
Living in the city.
Indeed.
There is a different context for wisdom. And the thing that we want to encourage you to consider is, as you connect to the beingness that is love, can you also connect to a cosmic context for your life?
Now breathe that one in. Can you connect with a cosmic context for your life? Because we call that inner smile, that sacred smile, that gentle love, wisdom balance that comes forward from deep within, that transcends all definitions, that transcends a DMSV5, that transcends anything that is thrown at you from a programmed media, or anything that tries to ignite your anger or your disruption. That's the connection that offers you your deepest happiness.
And that connection, that cosmic connection, is a universal underpinning. You know, the one way we can solve arguments in society is by widening the context so that people can accept that everyone needs to get their needs met.
True.
As opposed to be saying, you know, when you get your needs met, I'm losing something. We find a greater unifying context to create a balance between opposing parties, to dissolve the opposition. Well, how do we dissolve opposition in our lives? We must widen the fabric, the context, so that no longer are we struggling. Now that's a beautiful thing, and this is the hallmark of an ascended consciousness, that we're able to be present to the fabric of creation rather than the content of creation. To be present to the oneness, to the isness, to the loveness that is exuding through all manifest creation, and to notice
Wow.
it, feel it, breathe it, and recognize it in yourself,
Whew.
well, then you're happy.
Yes.
There's nothing that can ever shake you from that happiness, no matter what pill they want to give you.
And the reality is, I'm hearing a lot of you, Shri is sharing this wisdom. What I'm hearing a lot of you say is, okay, Shri, I get it, but how? And we only have a couple minutes left in the show, but let's offer you some hows, okay? One of the first thing you can do, a how that you can follow to stay in your happiness is, as Shri said, bring the cosmic context into your greater life. I call it the wide angle lens. Anytime things are way too in front of you, anytime things are seeming so overwhelming, so big, so large, it's time to bring that lens out wide and see the greater context. A way that I do that is I always breathe myself up. For me, I go to the top of the Himalayas. I'm just right up there at the top of the Himalayas, gazing out, seeing everything in its divine perfection. Or maybe you want to go out into the cosmic universe. When we're out in space and we gaze at the earth, there are no borders, there are no fences. All we see is this one unified energy stream. And you might say, well, Kira, that's all well and good, but I've got blah, 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 and blah. Yes, you do. And we're not saying to dig your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't happen. What we are inviting you to do is to take a look beyond. Go to the bigger picture. Stay in your cosmic connection. Remember, you are more than this world. You are an eternal being of divine, limitless creation. And Gandhi always used to say it well. He said, they can break my bones, they can break my body, they can take my death, but they will never kill me. And that's really what's it about. No matter what is projected at you, no matter what happens to you, you are impenetrable. You are eternity. You are limitless. You are the master. And thereby, ergo, you are happy.
It's a crazy paradox growing up in Earth School
Indeed.
to have to evolve through your belief systems, because we all get belief systems. It's how we navigate the world, and we collect ourselves with groups that believe the same way, think the same way, put their pants on one leg at a time, I am in a group that we do both legs at the same time.
It's a jump.
Tricky. It's tricky. Anyway, we all have belief systems, and those belief systems affect the way we construct meaning, the way we interact with our world. So to evolve means to have a look at your beliefs. And if there's something that's causing you pain in your life, if there's something that there's a tension, a guilt, a fear, have a look at that. Have a look at that. We're not here to tell you you're doing anything wrong. We're here to suggest that you're getting signals to evolve.
Ooh.
And we'll keep getting the discomfort or the pain or the sadness until we evolve. And then it changes.
Yes.
So Earth, we're all participating in an evolutionary moment, a grand moment, and it's been accelerating every year since the millennium at 2000. Every year, getting faster, getting higher, getting more vibrant. And also, what's accelerating is all of the discomfort, disconfirming stuff. You got it both. Remember, it's a world of duality. So all of the junk is accelerating while all of the opportunities for bliss are accelerating. Where do you put your gaze?
Indeed. So we encourage you to take that wide-angle lens, to smile right now, to giggle if you can, and to recognize that you are eternally happy. You are at peace. It's time to balance your love and your wisdom and to say, you know what, I don't need my state of being legislated, because the judge and jury is right here in my heart, in the chamber of my soul. You are that powerful. You are that amazing, and we love you. Thank you for the gift of sharing this moment with you, beloved ones. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us today for 2012 Higher Love. Remember that you can find out more about Shri and Kira by going to shriandkira.com. That's SRIANDKIRA.